He's one of our favorites, ESPN NFL college football analyst, former safety in the NFL, worked in the front office of the Eagles and Washington. He's Louis Riddick of the Mothership. He'd be on the call in this Super Bowl with Dan Orlovsky and Chris Fowler for the ESPN audience in Australia and New Zealand. Let's welcome Louis Riddick to the program.
Thanks. Oh, boy.
Looked like you could still play.
You know, it looks deceiving, Dan. Because,
but do you ever want to hit somebody?
Of course I do. But, of course. And you know what? I mean, we were just talking about it off camera. The game used to be so much different. I mean, the violence of the game used to be something that if you didn't really partake in it, you didn't play, especially not at my position. I grew up watching guys like Kenny Easley, Ronnie Lott, Jack Tatum, George Atkinson. Those were my guys. Don Rogers. Now I'm a dinosaur. I wouldn't last a day in the NFL anymore.
But we celebrated the violence.
Yeah.
We put out videos.
I have them all still in my basement at home. If anybody has a VCR that's working right now, I could use one. The beta and VHS.
But what changed? Like, do you know if there was a moment that changed?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a moment, but when I was kind of like, when we were talking about like running through some of the great hits that used to be on some of those highlight packages, like I remember Chuck Cecil's hit on Rod Middleton. I remember seeing Jack Tatum hit Earl Campbell on the goal line. I believe it was a Monday night game, and Earl still stumbled into the end zone, but he was never like the same after that, for the rest of that game. And I remember the late, great Eric Turner, who I played with at the Cleveland Browns, and when he hit Charles Johnson, and they had to take Charles' face mask off with a screwdriver because he was out cold, I was like, those moments when you add them up, and you start thinking, like, guys now couldn't hit that way. I mean, somebody would really be in trouble, because if you look at NFL players now, these guys are so leaned out and so dense with muscle, and they move so fast, somebody would seriously get hurt if you were allowed to hit the same way we did.
But you would learn to adjust. Ronnie Lott would learn, he would have to, correct?
Yeah.
Jack Tatum.
Yeah, and you know what, players now have adjusted. They've done the best they can because they kind of grew up in the era of adjusting. But if you would have taken a guy like Ronnie or Kenny Easley or even, myself, Eric, I guess we would have found a way to do it. But the mindset was just so different then. The mindset then was do whatever is necessary to separate that guy from the football. And you really didn't, like the health and safety of the player was kind of secondary. You have never wanted somebody to get hurt, but you didn't think of it the way you think of it now.
Did guys drink before they went out there? Did they do like a shot or anything? I'm being serious.
No, I know.
If I'm going into battle,
yeah,
whatever it takes to go into battle, if I played in the NFL, it'd be like, whatever you're giving me, give me a little bit more.
They didn't. I never saw anybody drink. But I will say this. My brother played 10 years for Buffalo in the early 80s, all during the 80s. And I do remember going up there and doing workouts with him in the summer. And I would see dudes, after they just got done running wind sprints they'd be in the locker room smoking cigarettes. I mean, literally be like sitting at the locker room going, man, that was a tough workout. I'd be like, well, you just did what are you smoking like Cools and menthols for? I mean, so there was a few contradictions as far as, hey, I'm trying to take care of my body, but I'm still puffing down this pack of cigarettes.
Well, now they're smoking pot, so now it's different.
That's true too. But you know what? I will say this though: you did things back then to make sure that you were able to play, that you knew probably weren't always in your best interest long term, in terms of whether it was taking things that would help numb some of the pain. Like I remember, quite honestly, I remember doing things just so I could practice. Because once you start playing, you didn't want to lose your spot, and it's just so competitive that I think now players are much more aware of the long-term effects of kind of ignoring some of the signs your body is telling you, and they won't play. Whereas before, you did whatever was necessary to play.
But do you think we're going to get to load management in the NFL when we get to 18 games?
That's a great question. I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt that there are people who are advising some of these players, who get in the ear of some of these players. Because I'll tell you what, like at all levels now, Dan, as you know, like coaches, administrators, general managers, like they're losing more and more control of the players themselves as far as getting them to do what they want them to do, because so many people on the outside are in these guys' ears. And I think a lot of it comes from that. So, yeah, I think there's a possibility that you could see guys saying, hey, look, you want to add games? Go ahead. That doesn't mean I'm playing all of them.
Yeah.
And they'll find ways to get out of them.
Some of the awards last night, Myles Garrett got Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah. I can see, look, Myles is a freak show from an athletic standpoint. You can't block him one-on-one. You simply can't.
But T.J. Watt's stats across the board are better than his.
I was about to say, look, we got to talk to T.J. Week 18, that game that we did, Chris Fowler and Dan and I, in Baltimore. And that was the first time I got to talk to T.J. What an impressive dude when you talk to him in person. He's not about the show. He's not about this. He's just about the game. And he's unblockable. And so there's so many guys. There's so many guys in the NFL.
Who would you have given the award to?
TJ.
Okay.
I would have given it to him.
Okay. Joe Flacco got Comeback Player of the Year.
I saw Joe Flacco in the airport in Philly before we came down here. I think he had his wife and his kid. That's a great story, too.
Okay. Damar Hamlin came back from death.
Yeah. That's pretty big. That's a pretty big deal. Yeah.
Like Joe came back from retirement or, sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
Damar came back twice.
Yeah.
From being dead. Like, aside from the big man upstairs, when you come back from the dead, that's a pretty impressive thing that he did, and then he doesn't even win the Comeback Player of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? See, some of these awards, man, like I don't quite understand everyone's rationale as to why they pick certain people, why they give certain awards to certain people. Like Damar, what he faced, what he went through, like it's more than just coming back from, obviously his heart stopping on the field and then reviving him. It goes beyond that. That's just the beginning for him. The things that he came back from, as far as, can you imagine playing a game that you played your entire life, right? Your entire life. You never even for a second thought, I might die on the field. And then it happens to you. And then you go back and can go and play that game again. Again, every time that you would think that I'm going to enter into contact to hit somebody, I'd be thinking, could this be the one where he hits me again? Like those mental gymnastics that he's had to go through, yeah, he probably should have won the award.
Okay, Ronnie Lott cuts off the tip of his finger so he can go back in and play.
Yeah.
Like you have to, not everybody had that mentality.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's crazy.
Ronnie Lott's my hero. He's the reason why I wore 42 when I was in high school and why I wore 42 when I got to the Cleveland Browns. Ronnie's different. Ronnie, I said this on social media just the other day. I put a picture up and I said he's the greatest leader of all time, regardless of any sport. Of any sport. Really? Because when I was in San Francisco as a rookie, I got drafted there and got cut, but I was there. Everybody there, every single person there talked about Ronnie Lott like he was some kind of mythological creature. Like, if Ronnie was here, we'd do this. If Ronnie was here, I'd be like, well, damn, Ronnie's not here. But if he was here, they'd be like, Ronnie would tell George Seifert when we want to practice, when we're not going to practice, what we're going to practice, what calls we're going to call. They said Ronnie would do things on the field. He would totally change defenses, tell defensive backs, I'm supposed to be in the middle of the field. I'm not back here. I'm blitzing. They'd be like, you can't do that. He'd be like, watch. But he was that guy who everybody feared and respected and loved. And, man, I mean, there's just so many great, just legendary players. Dan, I mean, you know all who they are. He's the greatest leader of all time.
That's some hefty praise. We're talking to Louis Riddick of the Mothership, ESPN college football and NFL analyst, and on the call with Dan Orlovsky, Chris Fowler, and ESPN's audience in Australia and New Zealand. Feels like people are having a tough time picking this Super Bowl. Yeah, I can see why. These teams are so... Is this the best matchup that we... Now, I would love Buffalo-Detroit would have been the best Super Bowl matchup. But as far as the two best teams, which is what we love to see... Yes. Did the NFL get it right with Kansas City and San Francisco? Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. Who do you like? I don't know. Oh, stop it. I'm you know what? See, it's... and I'm being dead serious. And I'm going to tell you, this is how it goes. Like, right? I want... 6 years ago, we were sitting on SportsCenter in March or April. I think I was on with Nicole Briscoe. And I said, this guy, Patrick Mahomes, is about to take over for Alex Smith. I said, watch what happens. He's going to win the MVP. He'll throw for over 40 touchdowns.
and he's going to burst onto the scene. And she was like, wait a minute, you can't say that. I was like, watch. And he did.
Paulie, see if you could find that.
It's a fact.
He could be just
It is a
making
fact.
this up.
It's a fact.
Do you remember,
it's an absolute fact.
You remember when I saw Tom Brady at the Combine when he was coming out of Michigan? I said he's going to be the greatest quarterback of all time.
I'm telling
bench
you,
Bledsoe.
folks, it's documented. It's a fact. It's a fact. Okay, so anyway, long story short, I will
why is a long story short never short?
But this is going to be short. I'll never bet against Patrick Mahomes.
See,
Never.
That's the way I feel.
Never.
He graduated to Brady status.
Absolutely.
Where I'm not going to.
Everybody down there in Kansas City talks about the fact they say this and they say it all the time. As good of a player as he is, he's a better teammate.
Yeah, seems like a great dude.
But you know what? I kind of want Brock Purdy in San Francisco to win this game. You know why? Because I want to.
Internet's going to explode.
No, I'm going to tell you why. Because I want to see people twist themselves up in a pretzel trying to figure out how to explain why he won the game. And I want them to go, but it was Debo, but it was Christian, but Patrick threw an interception, but he's not that good, but he shouldn't have been that good. He can't be that good. He's Mr. Irrelevant. You know, because that's what's been happening lately, right? Despite the fact that the guy
I'm going
led
to
the
give
league.
you a round of applause for that performance right there.
That's why, you know what? That's why the other day I tweeted an emoji of just a pretzel. And I just put it on Twitter. And people were like, what does that mean? I was like, you'll see. Just watch. You'll see.
If Brock Purdy played in the 70s,
Yeah.
we would never have any questions about him.
Oh, are you kidding? He'd be Fran Tarkenton, Johnny Unitas. He'd be
Bart Starr. Bob Greasy.
Exactly. He'd be all those guys. But see, now we want our quarterbacks now to be the guys who do Patrick stuff. We become drunk with that, intoxicated with the guys who can throw it with their left hand, throw a no-look pass, throw it behind their back, throw it between their legs, throw it 70 miles. But we go, but what about the guy who led the league in total QBR, led the league in total QBR against the blitz, led the league in total QBR against pressure, yards per attempt, efficiency ratings, completion percentage above expectation? Oh, forget that. I just want to look at how he looks and how he plays. And that's why we won't ever give it to him the way he deserves. And then, of course, being Mr. Irrelevant, people think, well, he was Mr. Irrelevant for a reason. So you don't think ever, like, general managers ever make a mistake? Of course they do.
Well, we're waiting for the clock to strike midnight.
Yeah,
Like,
but why?
Hey, Cinderella, this all
But
ends.
why would we do that?
Because that's how we are as a society. Like,
But you're having a guy come in here, right? Here, I guess, in an hour or
Jordan
so?
Love?
No, like, isn't somebody else coming? Like the greatest of all time?
Tom Brady?
Yeah, that guy.
Oh,
See?
he's in the building.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So think about this. That guy, when he was drafted, he was 5th on the depth chart as a rookie. 5th. And Bill kept him around because he saw something. So not everybody thought that Tom Brady would be Tom Brady either. But now we anoint him as the greatest of all. But obviously it took him winning, 7 Super Bowls in order for him to say that. But hey, I don't care where you come from. But I'd love to know where you're going. And I know where Brock Purdy's going. So we'll see.
Paul?
I've got a couple of different clips. I can't play them from here, but Lewis, what you said about Patrick Mahomes, you said that he's going to be phenomenal his first year out. You also reported they considered starting him at one point during his rookie year. He was doing so well in practice. And you picked most likely to win a Super Bowl first after the draft was Patrick Mahomes. You picked that on draft night.
And then, Paulie, did you find what I said about Brady when he was coming out of college, that he'd be the greatest of all?
Yeah, you said they should bench Bledsoe, or maybe he gets hurt and they get lucky to get him in.
There you go.
Yeah. Direct quote.
I said don't play Bledsoe against the Jets, because if you do, Brady's going to start and he's going to be the greatest. I think.
And he'll never, and
quote.
Bledsoe will never play again?
Yes,
No,
something like
that's
that.
cool. You nailed it.
Yeah, I did.
You nailed it.
Okay, real quick here. The Bears, Caleb Williams, foregone conclusion, he's going number 1.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it is, but I'll tell you this. I've really started to really dig on his tape. That kid is ridiculously talented.
Okay, so then you have to take him.
Yeah, probably. Probably.
So Justin Fields ends up where?
Where would you like to see him go?
Atlanta.
Yeah, you sure would.
Back
you sure
home.
would.
Put him with all those weapons.
Yeah, you'd like to see him there with Raheem. You'd like to see him there with Zach Robinson, their offensive coordinator who's coming over from L.A.
And Bijan.
There you go. A play-action-centric type of guy. Yeah,
Yes.
he'd be perfect there.
I
And
would
he'd probably become an all-pro.
I would just say go in. We're going to do what Lamar does. We're just let's go.
Yeah,
the
but-
old Lamar.
You know what, though? I don't know if you – I think Justin doesn't have to he doesn't have to be in that kind of system in order to excel. Look, if he can excel in a drop-back game that features some quarterback run stuff, but I don't think you can put him in that kind of box where you just say, look, you have to run him all the time. He's not that. He's better than that. And Chicago just couldn't figure it out. It's their problem, not his.
Yeah, I like him,
Yeah.
and I think when you start to change, coordinators, and all of a sudden you go, here's another coordinator. Baker Mayfield went through that.
Yep.
Okay, does Baker, what's he get from Tampa Bay?
Oh, man, probably. I mean, he's going to be in the 40-plus per year range.
Okay.
And he should be. But, to kind of build off of what you were just saying, we all know that organizations ruin quarterbacks as much as quarterbacks ruin themselves. But then when a quarterback doesn't succeed, we go, well, the quarterback sucks. It's not his fault. Well, look at all the different things he had to go through in Chicago, in Justin Fields. And it's unfair how we criticize players. We pick and choose how we want, who we want to kind of put up on a pedestal and who we don't.
Yeah.
We make certain people heroes. We make certain people goats. But it's just we've gotten a little bit out of hand with that kind of thing.
I do
I'm
that
rooting
on
for
this
Justin.
show. I do this on
Do you?
that show. Yeah, I'm a hero. Fritzy's a goat. And not the goat.
But you are a hero, though, man.
Yeah.
You are a hero.
Yeah. Do you have anything else that Lewis said, Paulie?
Not from Lewis, Dan. I found one of yours. This is right before the draft a couple years ago.
Okay.
49ers should consider insurance at quarterback. Maybe look at Brock Purdy late in the draft.
You did?
No, not at all.
There you go.
Oh,
There you go.
I thought I did.
Well, I'm paraphrasing.
Remember Brocktober?
Yeah.
We celebrated Brocktober when he was
Brocktoberfest.
at Iowa State.
Well, I will say one of the people who I believe actually was instrumental in getting Brock to San Francisco was our old colleague Brian Greasy, who's now the quarterback coach in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
That he did watch his tape, and he was one of the people who wanted him. So they did a great job.
Great to see you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for all your contributions to the show.
Of
all
course,
year
man.
long.
Of course.
He's Louis Riddick. We'll be back. We're playing is it Rhyme Time, Fritzy, coming up?
It is rhyme time.
Yeah.
It's happening. It's going to happen.
Okay, back after this.